Hey everybody, it's D-Swizz Wildcat back at you with another video. Today we're going to be previewing the Week 2 game against the Florida Gators. You know I've got my Gator Hater merch on today. Go to Kentucky Branded this week and get you one if you can. This is going to be a great early on test for us. Now before we get into this, please just make sure to like, subscribe, click that notification bell, and share this channel on all major platforms. Let's get into this. So I'm going to break this video down into 4 parts. I'm going to talk about the Florida defense, then the Florida offense, and the same for Kentucky against Miami of Ohio, and some keys for Kentucky to winning this game. So starting with Florida's defense, in the first half, it looked very stout. It looked dominant. They only gave up 14 points, and in the first half, there was only 59 rushing yards allowed. The second half was a completely different story. Utah was having its way on the ground, including in the quarterback rushing game. Cam Rising had over 90 yards himself. Their running back had over 80 of his 110 yards in the second half. So 171 yards total given up in the second half. Not very good. But their defensive line is lacking depth, and it showed. They looked gassed. Their front seven were giving up gaps that weren't there in the first half. They played well against the pass, except for that final drive. Cam Rising just kind of tore them apart on that final drive, besides the interception at the end. So you can say they're opportunistic. They didn't give up a big chunk play. The longest play they had against them was a 37-yard pass that was just kind of dumped right over the linebacker's shoulder, and he ran for like another 15 yards. But other than that, there really wasn't a huge chunk play in the air. So good things coming from their defensive backs for the most part. And scheme-wise, I think they schemed really well against Utah and probably will against Kentucky as well. Just maybe look for that second half to be more of a shootout. Because of their depth. They're going to be gassed. Their pass rush also left a lot to be desired. There were no sacks in this game for either team. I think that says more about the offensive line they played against than it does their pass rushing abilities, because they do have the talent. They have some dogs on that defensive line that, playing against a weaker offensive line and given the opportunity, will get after you. So Kentucky does need to shore that up. Because no doubt about it, these guys will wreak havoc in your backfield, even though it did not happen in this game. Especially in the first half, look for a more ferocious front seven in the first half than you will the second half. That's what I noticed from their defense in their game against Utah. Moving on to their offense, AR-15 was that dude in this game. He had over 100 yards rushing, 165 yards passing, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He looked very good in his progressions. They tried to play zone against him to contain that QB run so that everybody could have their eyes on the quarterback at all times, and it just didn't work. When somebody is just a straight-up better athlete than you, they can make plays out of nothing. See the 2-point conversion that he had towards the end of the game in the fourth quarter. You can get to him, but getting to him and bringing him down are 2 different things. If you don't bring pressure on him or bring a contain, he'll make you pay for it. So that's going to be something we're going to have to look out for. Their running backs looked really good. They did put it on the ground a few times and lost one of them. Could have been game changers, especially the one in the fourth quarter. So maybe look for some opportunities this week to punch that ball out. Little ball security issues there. But as far as AR-15 goes, I thought he was going to be a turnover machine like he was last year. And through the first game, he took care of the ball very nicely. Really good things coming from him. When you're that big, that fast, you always kind of look for a guy to be more athletic than he is head smart. But he looked like he put in the work in the film room over the offseason. He looked very nice, looked like he knew what he was doing, looked like a professional quarterback. Back to their running backs, one guy that absolutely popped off the screen every time he had the ball was Travis Etienne's little brother, Trevor Etienne. Everybody knows Travis from his days at Clemson, and now he's on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But his little brother looked every bit as good. He had some jump cuts that were absolutely elite, just shook defenders out of their cleats. They're probably still standing on that field as we speak, lying on the ground clutching their ankles. Now Florida, on the flip side, also didn't look like they were pushing the ball down the field very often. They looked very run heavy, which makes sense when you have a quarterback like AR-15 calling plays. But as a whole, just a lot of short passes. I think they were probably trying to take care of AR-15, give him some easy reads, but he did good. A lot of quarterbacks will take those easy reads and they'll overthink it, but he was getting through his progressions nice and easy, nice and quick, and was making the right decision a majority of the time. He probably throws the ball a little hard, just like Will Levis does. Maybe needs more touch on some of those passes. Ball placement was a little high, just like Will Levis. When you have a guy throwing with that much velocity, it's kind of hard to control where it goes. So probably some more touch and finesse needed on his part. But other than that, you know exactly how they're going to attack you. They're going to send guys deep, and it's either going to be open or AR-15 is going to take off downfield, or they're going to run a QB read or some variation of it. And if you stay and try to contain AR-15, then their running backs are going to have a field day. But on the flip side, you can't crash in on the running back and just let AR-15 run all over you. So it'll be interesting to see how Kentucky contains that. Our run defense did look very good against Miami of Ohio. We weren't out of position a whole lot except for that very first touchdown drive they had. So it's possible that our defensive line plugs all those holes for the running back, and we still have a guy like J.J. Weaver, who is a freak athlete himself, out there containing AR-15. Moving on to Kentucky's defense, I want to talk about our linebackers and how well they were able to get pressure. It seemed like Jacquez Jones and J.J. Weaver were wreaking havoc and hurrying the quarterback all night, especially Jacquez Jones. He played out of his mind. DeAndre Square was in on what seemed like every tackle. He was always around the ball, had great instincts about him. We weren't out of position on the run very much. Our defensive line fit their run responsibilities very well. There weren't a ton of gaps. It didn't seem like they got tired. They actually got better as the game went along, so love to see that. Our conditioning has been paying off. There wasn't a ton of pass rush from our D-line, but then again, Utah didn't have much of one either. So probably status quo for Florida this week along their offensive line. We held Miami of Ohio to 5.9 yards per attempt, and they threw the ball. They were a very pass-heavy team. They threw the ball almost 40 times. So that was great to see that over that many plays, the average is 5.6, because you would expect one of those big plays to hit, but they couldn't get anything going down the field. That bodes well for us because AR-15's yards per attempt were 7, so probably look for that to stay in the 6.5 to 7 range. With our bend but don't break defense, we're not going to give up anything deep. And speaking about giving up anything deep, Carrington Valentine, on the 2 plays that they threw to him deep, he was in great position. They called a BS pass interference call on him. It was not pass interference. It was picture-perfect defense from a cornerback. He was never really out of position. You never heard his name called for something bad. He was always in the right place at the right time. So really excited about him. Keidron Smith was opportunistic, in the right place at the right time. Really didn't get picked on a whole lot. The only time they got picked on was because of the defense we run, where they play 10 yards off the receiver. But when they were man-to-man and the receiver was on them, they were not out of position. They weren't getting lost out there. So that's great things to see. Now, as far as our offense goes, there's going to be some changes this coming up week. One of our biggest weaknesses was the offensive line. Didn't give Will Levis a whole lot of time to throw the ball. Gave up 4 sacks. Kenneth Horsey is now moving to left tackle to take over David Wallabaugh, who has been moved to backup right tackle behind Jeremy Flax. Jagger Burton is still going to start at left guard. In his one-on-ones, he was very good, very stout. It was mostly just the communication between him and David Wallabaugh that were letting so many guys through on that left side of the line. So hopefully with a veteran like Kenneth Horsey holding down that left tackle spot, there's going to be better communication on that left side of the line, and look for a lot less pressure this coming week. Another thing that I noticed was that Will Levis only really forced one throw. It was the fumbled snap towards the beginning of the game where he picked it up and tried to make something out of nothing, and he was already late on his timing from having to pick the ball up off the ground, and he threw the ball deep to Barry Brown, and it was underthrown because it was late, and Barry Brown is just such a burner. He was too fast for the ball. So there's going to be some learning with that. He's going to learn his wide receivers' speed capabilities, and he's also going to put that in the bank, and he's going to remember, hey, if I fumble this snap, or it's a bad snap, or I've got some guy rushing me off the edge and I have to take one step to move out of his way, then the timing is off, and maybe I just need to tuck this and run or throw to the check down. So I think he'll learn from that. But other than that, there were not really any forced throws. The one interception he has, I don't think it was a forced throw. I think it was just a bad throw. He just placed the ball in the wrong spot. I think if he chooses a different type of throw, like a touch pass over the defender's head, it's a wide open touchdown in the back of the end zone. So one forced throw that I saw, his ball placement could have been a little better, but again, elite arm strength and some elite throws that he made, especially the front corner of the end zone touchdown to Dane Key. He was sidestepping and navigating the pocket with ease at times. There probably should have been 6 or 7 sacks instead of 4, but he, on his own and his God-given ability, evaded 3 or 4. It was like watching a painter paint the Mona Lisa. His pocket navigation was absolutely beautiful. So I think that bodes well for us against Florida with their defensive line that had a lack of a pass rush. Our new upgraded offensive line with Kenneth Horsey moving to left tackle, and then Will Levis's God-given ability where he can just sidestep and navigate those defenders rushing him. So the 3 keys to this game are going to be, can we keep Will Levis upright with Kenneth Horsey moving to left tackle? I believe we will. I think we give up less than 2 sacks this game, which would be a huge improvement from week 1. If we can do that, Will Levis will pick them apart through the air. We've shown we have the wide receiver talent this year through Barry Brown, Tavion Robinson, and Dane Key, who all looked like future studs. Tavion Robinson more than anybody, just absolutely electric with the ball in his hand. He can take a screen or a shallow or a quick outer dig, and he can take that 4 or 5 yard pass and bust it for a 40-yard reception. So we need him to stay upright to get it into those guys' hands as much as possible. Next up, it needs to be a 1-score game at halftime, or we need to be straight up winning. With their lack of depth on the defensive side of the ball, if it is a close game at halftime, I believe we pull away and win this game by more than 1 score. They'll probably be gassed, and I think Lavelle Wright will have a big day in the second half of this game. So look out for our running backs and Will Levis to have a way better day on the ground than they did against Miami of Ohio. The last one is we need to force AR-15 into mistakes. We have to win the turnover battle. Utah showed it was possible. Their running backs are prone to getting that ball ripped out of their hands. They put it on the ground twice, and we need to get in AR-15's face on some of these blitzes. We need to make him think twice about stepping into throws. We need some batted balls to go our way. If we can get more possessions with the football than AR-15 has, the better our chances are. So those are my 3 keys to this game. Now we're going to move on to my prediction. Now the spread on this game right now, Las Vegas has it at 4.5 with the over-under around 52 points. I do believe that the over hits this game, and I believe Kentucky covers that spread. For any of you betting fans out there, I believe Kentucky wins this game by 7 points. I believe it'll be 31-24 in that range, and I think at halftime it'll be either a 13-10 or a 10-7 type range. I think there's going to be an offensive explosion in the second half, more so for my Kentucky Wildcats. AR-15 will get his. He'll have a few touchdowns. He'll have a few big plays, but I think Kentucky has more of them, forces a couple turnovers, gets a little bit more possessions throughout the game, and has more time of possession throughout the game than the Florida Gators will. And I think that bodes well for us. So please, before this video ends, make sure you like, subscribe, share this channel, hit that notification bell, and y'all have a great day. Go Cats.